Oh, the places you'll go, with these stories in tow. From the Odyssey to Antigone, and more, don't you know? With Dr. Seuss style, we'll make them so fun that reading these classics will be enjoyed by everyone. The tales of gods and heroes, of tragedy and woe, are brought to life with rhyme, whimsy, and flow. The plays of Euripides and Aeschylus, so grand, become accessible to all across the land. No more dry and dusty tomes on a shelf. These stories now bring laughter and joy to oneself. So open up a book, give these tales a try, and watch as the words dance and fly. From ancient Greece to modern day, these stories still have much to say. So let's keep them alive, let them endure. With Dr. Seuss style, we'll keep them pure. Hark! Hear ye the tale of the mighty war that shook the walls of Troy, oh so far. For a quarrel broke out between two great kings, and they rallied their armies with shouts and with sings. First came Achilles, with armor so bright, and he led the Greeks with all of his might. Next was Hector, the prince of Troy, who fought with bravery, his people's joy. So the battle raged on, with swords clashing loud, and the heroes fought bravely, both strong and proud. Yet in the end, it was the Greeks who won, and the Trojans fled, with their city undone. Oh, the tales that were told, of the battles fought, of the heroes who fell, and the lessons they taught. For war is a tragedy, with lives lost in vain, and it's never the answer to any dispute or pain. So let us remember this story of old, and strive for peace in our hearts to hold. For it's not with violence that we can achieve, but with kindness and love that we can truly believe. Oh, I'd love to tell you a tale about a man so strong and hale, who sailed across the great blue sea. His name was Odysseus, as you'll soon see. The gods were angry, oh so sore, and sent our hero on a great big tour. From Troy to Ithaca he did roam, so he could find his way back home. With his men and his ship, Odysseus did slip past sirens' songs and monsters fierce, and even a witch with magic to pierce. But on the way he did get stuck with a nymph who just loved to muck. He stayed with her for many a day, but he wanted to go home and stay. So with the help of a god or two, Odysseus set sail anew. But the journey wasn't always smooth, and it made our hero quite aloof. When he finally reached his home, his wife and son he did see roam, but suitors had taken over his land, and he had to fight them hand in hand. With Athena's help, he did prevail, and he got back his land without fail. But the journey had taken its toll, and Odysseus was now an old soul. So let this story be a lesson to all. Even heroes sometimes fall, but with strength, courage, and a little bit of luck, you can always find your way back home, oh shuck. In the land of Thebes, long ago, a king and queen had a son, you know. An oracle came with a terrible fate. Said he would kill his father, his destiny sealed with hate. To avoid this fate, they sent him away. But he returned to Thebes one day. He met an old man, quarreled and fought, and thus, his father he unwittingly wrought. He married his mother, unaware of the truth, till a seer came to reveal the painful sooth. He gouged his own eyes out, in agony and despair, for the fate that he tried so hard to repair. Thus, the story of Oedipus, so tragic and grim, a tale of fate and hubris, so sad and grim. In a grove of trees, on sacred ground, Oedipus wandered, old and renowned. He sought a place to die, his fate to fulfill, and sought out the gods, to bend them to his will. The people of Colonnus, they watched him go, this man who had brought them both joy and woe. They knew his name, his deeds, his cursed fate. But now, they saw him broken, desperate, and late. As Oedipus prayed, a voice was heard. And the people of Colonnus were stirred. For the voice was that of the gods, and it said, "Oedipus, your death will bring blessings, not dread." And so, the old man waited, his life ebbing away. Until the time had come, on that fateful day. And in the end, he died, with a final breath. At peace, with the gods, in the grove of death. Once in Thebes, a tragic play. About a girl named Antigone, I'll say. King Creon made a law one day. Said, "Do not bury your brother, I pray." But Antigone thought it was wrong. Her brother deserved a burial, she sang her song. She snuck around, with her shovel so strong. Buried her brother's body, before too long. Creon found out, and was quite upset. He said, "Antigone, you'll come to regret." But Antigone wouldn't take it, you bet. She'd rather die, than forget. So Creon locked her up in a tomb. But Antigone did not feel any gloom. She knew that soon she would meet her doom. And reunite with her brother in the tomb. And that's the end of Antigone's fate. She died, but her legacy is great. She stood up for what was right, she did not wait. And we remember her to this date. In Argos once lived a king of great fame. Agamemnon was his illustrious name. He sailed to Troy with an army in tow. To reclaim his wife, stolen by a foe. The war lasted long, 10 years to be exact. And when Agamemnon returned, he faced an attack. His wife, Clytemnestra, had a plan in store. To murder her husband and his concubine whore. Agamemnon was slain, by his wife's own hand. Betrayed by a woman he couldn't understand. But his son, Orestes, would avenge his father's death. And put an end to the murderous queen's breath. Thus ends the tale of Agamemnon's fate. A story of war, betrayal, and familial hate. In Argos town, a tale is told. Of vengeance sought, of blood so cold. Orestes, son of Agamemnon, returned to claim what was his own. His mother's crimes, he could not bear. So with his sister, he did share. A plan to kill the murderous pair. Their mother and her lover there. The Furies raged, but did not scare Orestes and his sister fair. For justice they did boldly dare. To avenge their father's death with care. In the end, the gods did spare Orestes from the Furies' snare. And peace was brought to Argos air. Thanks to Orestes' righteous glare. So let us raise a glass and cheer. To Orestes, who did not fear. To stand for what is right and clear. In libation bearers, here. Once upon a time in ancient Greece. There were some gods who would never cease. To interfere in the lives of men. And this is where our tale begins. In Athens there was a man named Orestes. Whose mother Clytemnestra was the deadliest. For she killed her husband Agamemnon. And this was an act that could never be undone. Orestes knew he had to avenge his dad. But it was a task that made him sad. So he went to Delphi to seek advice. And the Pythia told him to roll the dice. He returned to Argos to kill his mother. But his sister Electra wasn't a bother. For she helped him with the deadly deed. And Clytemnestra was the one who did bleed. But now the Furies were on his tail. And they wouldn't stop until he was in jail. But with the help of Apollo and Athena, Orestes was acquitted in Athens' arena. The Furies were mad but they had to relent. For Athena's verdict was final and bent. And they were transformed into the Eumenides. The kindly ones who were now on Orestes' side. So if you ever find yourself in a bind, remember that justice can be kind. And with the help of friends and gods divine, you can make things right and everything will be fine. Once in Thebes, a god arrived. His name was Dionysus, widely revered. But King Pentheus, he did not believe. And so, a cruel fate he would receive. Dionysus, the god of wine and pleasure, had a cult of women, his most loyal treasure. The king, he thought this was absurd, and refused to honor the god he'd heard. But the god had a plan, a wicked one, to make the king and all his followers done. He disguised himself as a mortal man, and to the king, he revealed his plan. He convinced the king to dress as a woman, and spy on the cult. It was his human. But the women, they saw through the trick, and in a frenzy, they made him sick. The king was ripped apart limb from limb by the very women who worshipped him. And Dionysus, he looked on with glee, as the king met his violent destiny. So, let this be a lesson to all who refuse to honor the god's call. For Dionysus, he will not be ignored, and those who do, will meet his sword. In ancient Greece, there was a lady named Medea, who fell in love with a man named Jason, but it didn't go so well. She helped him to get the golden fleece, but he then left her and caused her great grief. Medea was mad, oh, she was so mad. She wanted revenge, and boy, was she bad. She cooked up a plan that was truly vile, to punish Jason and make him beguile. She sent her sons to bring gifts to the bride, a gown and a crown to wear by her side. But the presents were cursed, oh what a surprise! And the bride and her father met with their demise. Medea escaped, she fled in a hurry, and Jason was left feeling very blurry. His heart was broken, his life was undone, and Medea had won, oh what had begun. So let this be a lesson to all who seek love. Don't hurt your partner, don't push and shove. For if you do, and they're as mad as Medea, you'll end up alone, oh what a pity. Once upon a time, in ancient Greece so grand, King Agamemnon's ships were stuck on the sand. The winds did not blow, so he prayed to the gods to get them to help, to start up the odds. The goddess Artemis then made a demand to sacrifice Iphigenia, his daughter so grand. Agamemnon agreed, with tears in his eyes, for if he did not, his fleet would not rise. He tricked Iphigenia, brought her to the shore, and sacrificed her as he wept evermore. But his wife Clytemnestra, who loved their dear child, sought revenge on her husband, and his acts so wild. And so the story goes, of this tragic tale, of a father's betrayal, and a daughter's travail. The consequences were dire, and the price was high, for Agamemnon's actions would never be justified.